We are up. We are live. It is Wednesday. You know what that means. It's not Dynamite. It's the watch list.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Hey, look, after last week, man, like we might be, a little bit bigger than Dynamite. You know what I mean? Like ratings wise,
this guy.
we might be the one. We might be the one-on-ones, man.
Hey.
It's always a great time over here.
It's always a good time when you rocking with the Black Guy Wrestling Podcast. It's always a good time. Let's go.
My goodness.
Boy, what you talking about? Look, we are the guests.
We are honored.
You are the host, sir. You are the host. You are the legend here.
What's that? I am no more than a fan of you guys. That's all and I know what's gonna happen. I got impeccable timing. Everybody needs me whenever I get on a camera. It never fails.
It never stops, man. It never stops.
It's all good, bro.
But that's exactly where my intro always come from. Because I swear, nobody believes it to me until that very moment.
I was gonna say you called it right on the money too, because we went live. A few seconds went by. Oh, telephone call.
Oh man,
like I promise now. Everybody has some type of regular. Oh, I need Dryzzy. Hold on. Let me make that call real quick.
But yes, everybody, welcome to volume number 2 of the Watch List, the show for the niggas and the nerds. You know what I mean? Because that's what we do, right? Of course, I am Scotland Underwood.
I am Solo Nolo Green.
And you already know we don't do guests on this podcast. We don't do guests on this platform. We do co-hosts, and today's co-host is a very special one, an extremely special one. We've been rocking with this brother since day one, it feels like, you know what I mean? Like from the very beginning, when we was at 200, my man was right there. You already see what it is.
Hey.
We play music up past the odds.
That's my guy.
Yes. Yes.
Before we get into it, good morning, afternoon, and evening. It's the guy you should believe in. Dryzzy is in the building. And shout out to my dude, Shad, in the comments. It's not Tuesday, but we holding them twos up.
Shit, I'll throw 2 up.
Hey, I'll throw 2 up.
Twos up. Yes, sir. But yes, we are joined by the legendary Dryzzy. Not that Dryzzy.
Not that Dryzzy.
Not that Dryzzy.
Not a loser.
Pay attention. That's the not that Dryzzy. Like, we
not.
I ain't messing with Kendrick.
Yeah, you haven't lost this week. You good?
I definitely would have been sitting on the bench with Cole. Like, bro, you was right. You was right. That man is not nothing to play. Like, nah.
But he made the correct decision.
Bro, failed recess because he don't play. Nah.
For real. But bro, thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, this has been a long time coming, something that's been in the work for many moons, but now we can finally get it rocking.
Absolutely.
First, how are you doing, man?
I am good. Everything's great except for like this black sky outside my house. But other than that, we good. We golden. It's a good day to be a wrestling fan.
It's a wonderful night to be a wrestling fan. Like I said, I feel like this is the perfect segue into some actual professional wrestling. Like you get the absolute best of the best, and then you get to watch the B team rock and do what they need to do. You know what I mean? Because you start off with the A team, and then you transition into it, right?
No, we gotta get the subs. We gotta get the subs in the game. Look at the subs in.
But bench, baby.
Yeah, man. But of course, if you tuned into us last week, the watch list is completely different from the volume episodes. The watch list is where we break down the co-host of the week, their match that they've picked. We break down the essence, the history, just pretty much everything about it surrounding it. And today we have a special pick. You know what I mean? This one's all the way back 11 years, 2013. To a different time period, you know what I mean? A completely different time period, which is, I feel like, is the perfect blend because last week we talked about something that happened this year.
A month ago.
Yeah. This is something which, Nolo, if I'm not mistaken, you said you had never seen this match prior?
I had never seen this match before in my life. I was very happy that you were able to share this with us because I'm like, oh, new wrestling. I'm always down for new graps.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a banger.
Yes.
And And it was a banger at a time when bangers were not happening in this place. This is like in the middle of the Hogan era of TNA.
Oh, I realized.
Yeah, when I was doing my research for this, I was like, "Oh, this was during that time." Yeah,
The dark times.
Very, very dark time.
And the match that Drizzy selected is Gail Kim versus Taryn Terrell from Slammiversary 2013, June 2013, if I'm not mistaken. Drizzy, why did you select this match? Because like I said, you gave me a couple of hitters, but this one you said has a special place in your heart. So what about this match that made you want to pick this one?
It's because at that time I was a big TNA fan. In my deepest core, I'm an anti WWE fan, but the TNA, I'll be trying to find positive things about them, and the one constant that they had was the Knockouts division. That Knockouts division from the beginning to then to even now is the biggest reason the TNA is still out there striving. They are still striving. They are hard to kill. Like those pay-per-view titles and literally just how they surviving through things. And it's been built off the backs of matches like this. I truly believe it was like a bridging the gap of generational women's wrestling, because at this point in time, it's the halfway of the divas, the lingerie, just the evening gown matches, like the end of that era, and getting into women really getting busy in the ring when you have people like Gail Kim, ODB, Angelina Love, like actual women who were getting busy in the ring. And this match was like the perfect blend of that. And it also showed that these women aren't just pretty faces. They get busy in the ring.
Mm-hmm. Without question. Like I said, I feel like this was a perfect match to pick because of exactly what you were saying, that bridge in the gap, right? So let's scale it back a little bit, you know what I mean? Like get the build up going. Ooh. But we talk about what's that, bro?
That's another reason why I picked this match. It was not built around a title. It was not built around he stole my man. It was built around respect. And that at that time, unheard of in women's wrestling at that time.
Without question. So, like I said, going into the 2000s, early 2010s, Americans women's wrestling for the mainstream audience was literally lingerie matches, mud wrestling matches that degraded the impact of the women and how they were viewed on television. Like I said, we all do remember like the segments that, like I said, that made them look just lower than low. And we're talking about like women that are pioneers, you know what I mean? Obviously, I'm sure, you know, they've had conversations about where there were, what the view was at the time. Yeah. But for what was on American television, predominantly WWE, if you were a fan of the indies, you were familiar with Shimmer, you know what I mean? Like I said, that was my first introduction to like, oh shit, like 15 years old. I'm like, yo, these women are getting active. And I'm like, you know, we're talking about Daisy Hayes, cheerleader Melissa, current head trainer at the Performance Center, Sarah Del Rey. You know what I mean? And like they were having quality matches, and a lot of the talent you see today, Athena, Ruby Soho, like they got their start in Shimmer, you know what I mean? Or at least their big break. But a shift happened when TNA introduced the Knockouts division in the fall of 2007. And for that time, the big feud, one of the most influential feuds in women's wrestling, Gail Kim, Awesome Kong.
Classics.
Man.
Classics.
Man. Nola, were you watching at that time around the Gail Kim, Awesome Kong era?
I was not watching, but I have seen a couple of their matches.
Okay.
Because I've gone back. Yeah. I have gone back and done some homework with those. But I could say TNA, I was mostly watching WWE back then. Like if it was WWE, that's pretty much all I would watch. And when we got to TNA having this thing, it just was if it was on TV and it caught my attention, I would watch it. But if I didn't, it wasn't like a appointment television for me.
Fair. So this is actually a great because of parallel. You know what I mean? So, Driz, starting with you, how important was the knockouts division just as a whole when it came to the perception of women's wrestling? Because, like I said, we're talking about, like, I think prior to that, the only women's match to main event on television was Trish Stratus and Lita in 2004. Awesome Kong and Gail Kim, they were main eventing TNA. You know what I mean? Like, but so like from your standpoint, what did that feud do for women's wrestling?
Gail Kim and Awesome Kong showed that American women's wrestling is not defined with lingerie matches, the mud fights, cat fights, like anything that the women can do. I mean, anything that the men can do, the women can do, and they can do it better if you give them enough time and chance to. Because a lot of those TNA matches were overshadowed by Awesome Kong and Gail Kim. You overshadowed by people like Roxy Laveau, we had Angelina. Like at that time, the women's division, the knockouts division in TNA was cooking at that time.
The beautiful people were top rating segments. You know
like
what I mean?
That,
Angelina Love, Madison,
Velvet
Sky,
and that's as being one of the first on TV women dominated factions right there. Like before that, we just had PMS and they would come out, kick somebody in the balls, and run off. But Angelina Love and Velvet Sky actually made a faction heel. They were champions. Like they really defined what it was to be a woman in America wrestling.
Yeah. Nolo, since you weren't watching at the time, from your standpoint during that time, what was your perception of women's wrestling?
Mostly the Divas era. That was mostly what I've known. Like I've seen a couple things like on indie shows, because actually one of the first time that I knew indie wrestling existed was someone showing me a women's match, and I said, "Wait a second, there's more wrestling than like Japan." WWE. Like, what do you mean? I was surprised. I was like, "Oh, okay." So I was like, "Okay, this is interesting. Let me go dig in some crates and see if I can find some more." And I failed miserably until I met someone who was a bigger wrestler fan than I was, that, or at least outside of like WWE, and he put me on some things. Like that, it was the first time I got to see some Joshi wrestling, and I was like, this is some amazing stuff right here, because I was like, y'all have no regard for each other.
Oh, it was just straight violence.
Violence. You know, say Japanese wrestling, Joshi, no matter what, they hate backs. They hate backs. They hate necks. They hate all of it.
I was like, yo, car crashes.
You got this arm? Let me break it real quick.
Like you don't need this.
For me, I was very much like you, Driz. I was very anti WWE. I was locked in every Thursday night, Spike TV. That was my destination television when it came to pro wrestling. Like
this is how deep I was into it. When WCW, I went down with ship in WCW. Ooh. Like I was on the simulcast, and I wasn't even watching the WWE. I wasn't watching Vince on WWE. I was watching TNT, watching Vince on the Titantron. That's how deep into the anti-WWE I was at that point in time. And when TNA came up, originally I was buying the weekly editions on Wednesdays. That's how deep I was into that.
Yeah. Oh, like I said, that is such a different era. And one of our participants that we're talking about today, Gail Kim, has such an interesting story when it comes to like the lore. Obviously, Gail Kim, TNA Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? The things that Gail Kim did for that Knockouts division is something that we can speak on for days. But like I said, in order to appreciate Gail Kim in TNA, Gail Kim was originally in WWE. And once again, we're talking about an era where, like I said, wrestling for women wasn't like a thing. Every once in a while, you would see the flashes of brilliance. You know what I mean? Like Trish obviously took it very seriously. You had veterans like Jacqueline, Ivory. You know what I mean? Like if they had the moment to shine, they would. But unfortunately, the powers to be didn't see that same effect. And Gail Kim saw that. You know what I mean? Gail Kim was constantly put in. And keep in mind, Gail Kim did win the WWE's women's title at the time on her debut, but that quickly went out the window. So,
hey, can I pause you for 1 second?
Yeah. What's up?
I wanted to get the shout out to Decence on Instagram.
Oh, one love to the brother.
Oh yeah, shout out to Decent. Absolutely. He commented TNA has had the best women's division for about 2 decades, and when we were naming off people, he was like ODB.
Yes.
Oh yeah. We're gonna bring up ODB. We're gonna bring up ODB.
Who was the referee in this match?
Yeah. But yeah, so Gail Kim, she leaves WWE, she goes to TNA. She does a little bit with Jeff Jarrett, but then we see the feuds and everything like that. And then it seemed like as the time she was really starting to cook, you know, more women were starting to come in. She leaves for WWE again, right? And now, Drizz, do you remember the exact reason why she left? Has she ever publicly stated why she left at the time?
I can't remember ever seeing anything on why. I just assumed it was like, well, I've done everything here. Let's go see if we can, if anything's changed. Maybe they'll give a little bit more attention to the Graps over here, and it didn't.
They did not. Yeah, they did not. They did not at all.
They did the opposite.
In fact, they kind of doubled down on it actually at that point in time. So,
and then in the same essence, Taryn Terrell made her debut in WWE. She was she originally, if I'm not mistaken, the 2007 Diva Search.
Yes.
And she was in FCW. Well, before there was NXT, and she made her debut on the WWE ECW brand as Tiffany. She did absolutely nothing
not a thing
in the ring. Nothing.
didn't even make tag matches. Like, just no.
She was there. She was there, and I believe there was an instance that happened with her her ex-husband Drew McIntyre that led to her release. But then she started working a couple of indie dates at the same time. Gail Kim is in WWE, but it's the same old. She's not doing anything. She was in a storyline romance with Bryan Danielson. You know what I mean? That didn't make any sense, right? But what's happening during this time when we get to 2010 is you're starting to see that flash of brilliance that I just referred to. TNA is already cooking. TNA is doing their thing. WWE is very much behind, right? So leading into, as you know how they do, But so Gail Kim eventually leaves WWE again. She quit mid-match. You know what I mean? For those that really remember.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody quit mid-match. Like, I see people wait till after the match. Like, she's like, yeah, we're done.
No, she just jumped out the ring. It was over. And
she did like my man in NFL that quit at halftime, said, I'm out of here.
Like, I'm retiring.
I got no more for you, coach.
But now this part, I'm not watching wrestling at the time. I have no clue what's going on. The last thing I remember is Hogan's running TNA. That killed my interest. WWE is trash. That killed my interest. Wasn't really watching New Japan. Ring of Honor was starting to suck. It was just not a good time. I was out the game. But Drizz, where were you going into like 2010 to 2013? Where was like your mindset when it came to wrestling?
I was on the edge of probably being done. I like you said, WWE wasn't really doing nothing, but I was still kind of just out of habit still watching, just because I still needed to feed the monkey on my back of watching wrestling. TNA was doing things. TNA would hit and miss a lot. They still had AJ Styles and a lot of their big names, but it was still really hit or miss. And the knockouts were doing some things, but I think they were also still trying to compete with what WWE was doing. So, yes, the knockouts were getting the time, but it was fairly forgettable matches. It wasn't really big stories going on. It was just I seriously believe that I don't want to give them this credit, but Terry and Eric Bischoff coming into TNA did bring me over there. it brought me over there more often than what I
That's
normally would
fair.
be.
That's fair.
I don't like giving them that credit. I'll give more to Eric than I will to Uncle Terry, but yeah.
That's fair. Nolo, what about you? I know we've talked. I know we've talked about like where you were during this space, but were you watching wrestling at this time? Going into 2013?
I was a one of those wrestling fans that watched the pay-per-views.
Yeah.
So I was there. I was there for the pay-per-views. Like what? 2013. That's Rock and Cena, ain't it?
Yep.
Indeed. So I was around. A little bit.
Okay. So, Drizz, man, explain this feud to me, especially for people that may have not seen it. Like I said, I've done my research. If I'm not mistaken, this feud started when Taryn Terrell was brought in to be by Brooke Hogan, funny enough, to be the official referee for the Knockouts division, correct?
Correct. And that was a great idea, actually. It set everybody off because it set them apart from other companies because you don't see women wrestlers a lot. Women referees like that, and I think the only one we had at that point in time, maybe it may have been Jacqueline on a couple of occasions, but it was more storyline driven than for a constant thing. So having somebody who's strictly dedicated to the women's rules, she's not bending the rules for them because this or that. Somebody completely impartial, and I also think it's a big reason why we have people like Daphne in WWE, Jessica Carr, and Aubrey Edwards. Like let's say now it's a norm seeing a woman's referee, but back then that was like, oh, they can do that.
Like everybody was like, whoa.
So you let them referee?
Like it was wild at that point. And it shouldn't have been taboo. It should not have been taboo to see something like that, but hey, whatever brings you there. So the story starts off one bad call. She made one bad call in a Gail Kim match. I think it cost her the
Velvet Sky.
Yes, it cost her a shot at the women's champion at the Knockouts championship. And Gail Kim was on her ass ever since.
Hey, if anything, that's consistency because if you cost
she got fired. Well, fired.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Who got fired? Gail Kim?
No. Terrell.
Taryn Terrell got fired as a referee,
but hired as a wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the perception I do remember at the time, which in hindsight, when you look back at like Taryn Terrell's career, like she was not lauded as a worker. Like, you know what I mean? I don't think people saw her as that, unfortunately. Like I think very much people had the perception like she's just like a blonde pretty face you could throw on TV. But clearly, you know what I mean, putting her in a program with one of the best women's wrestlers, one of the best wrestlers period, in Gail Kim, like obviously they saw the potential in it. And if I'm not mistaken, they had a match prior to this one, correct?
They tried, but Gail Kim attacked her, just made it impossible for the match to happen. And I think they saw that, Taryn's not gonna be a Natalia Neidhart or nothing, but she can fight. Yeah. And honestly, it was brilliant to cater to what she could do, as opposed to what she can't do. And I think also going with she's willing to put her body on the line, which is something that it's mental gymnastics that you have to get through anyway, because just going in a ring is insanity. But going and wanting to jump off stuff and jump off of a stage with somebody on your arm, it's all just insanity. But the dedication to do it means a lot. So I think they just kind of ran with the whole she's crazy enough to do this, let's go with it. And thus the hot mess Taryn Terrell was born.
Yeah, the hot mess. And I think, I actually think that's a very important part. Like, she's not a Natalia Neidhart. You know what I mean? Like, she's her own style of wrestling. Like, it's that whole case, like, we don't do it with the men when it comes to, like, the way we compare, you know what I mean, such and such. We might do it here and there, but, like, it's like the women always have this target. Like, they have to be XYZ.
Can't get dirty, can't get hurt.
And like I said, if you're a fan of Joshi wrestling, like you saw the bloodbaths that they would have, like you know what I mean, the intensity. And TNA was very much on the forefront of like not like we see our women on par with the men, not they may be co-main on paper, but they are absolutely on par with the men.
Mhm.
And like I said, this is such a fascinating time. We are, if I'm not mistaken, this match was in June. We're 8 months away from the Paige and Emma match from NXT Takeover. You know what I mean?
believe so.
Something like that.
Yeah, around that time. Yeah.
Yeah. Nikki Bella is grappling a little bit. You know what I mean? Like she's having good matches. Michelle McCool, Layla L, Mickey James. Obviously, you know what I mean. Like you're seeing it, right? But watching this match,
they were still being treated like divas, and that little 2-minute window you got. Come on, you got a commercial break, go.
And the reason why I love that you picked this match was because when we initially talked about it, you said this was the bridge to the women's revolution. You know what I mean? Like at this time, there is no Charlotte. There's no, Sasha's wrestling on the indie. Yeah. You know what I mean? Bailey's wrestling. You know what I mean? Like it's such a different time. Being a fan that you were, what was your anticipations for this match?
I knew that it was going to be a fight, but when you think of last man standing, you're thinking death match, basically. They found a way to make it brutal, but not be that. And because it was so story driven, I think that's what added more to it because I had actually seen the entire story. A lot of the deathmatch things happen at shows that you don't get to see. You miss certain little pieces of it. This one actually played out on TV with women, and you got to see everything happen because this story lasted from January and even continued on until August. So this was just the first official match of their feud, and it did not disappoint.
The fact that this is the first match of the feud and it's the last knockout standing is insane. Insane. Before we actually dive into the match, Nolo, from fresh eyes, you know what I mean? Obviously, where you see where women's wrestling is, were you able to take yourself back to that time to kind of understand what like the importance of maybe a match like this?
Absolutely. Because I personally didn't know like this was like the bridge into the women's revolution, but Dryzzy saying that, I could definitely like see it from how the match is structured, how they did the moveset that everyone used. They gave them they actually gave them some time to tell the story during the match, and it early, like I said earlier, it really wasn't like a super like gory match or anything for a last knockout standing match, but they definitely brought the heat. Like you could tell they were brawling from the get-go.
It wasn't a wrestling match. It was a fight. It was a fight.
They had one weapon and it was used perfectly.
And executed to a T.
Yes.
Like this is proof that you don't need chairs, you don't need kendo sticks, you don't need tables, you don't need all this to have these knockdown, drag out fights that only one person can walk away from. You can do these things with just the moves in the ring, just your actions, just your move, what you're in there trying to accomplish, like translating, like making sure that you're bigger as a character and a person, that it touches everybody in the building.
As I was watching it and I was watching the flow, like I said, like they only used one weapon, you know what I mean? They use, and like I said, I think the perception is a last man standing like match. Like you said, it needs to be violent. It needs to be like this is like gory bloodbath, but
Rocky Mankind.
No, essentially, yes.
That was right. That was the right quick match, everybody.
But essentially, this match reminded me of like the adage Bret Hart said about his match with Owen Hart in the steel cage. Like cage matches were always designed to be like these bloody affairs. I think Bret had the mindset like, well, it doesn't need to be. What can you do differently in a cage match? You know what I mean? And they ended up having arguably one of the greatest cage matches of all time. without the blood, without using the cage. They use the cage as a tool to win, not as a tool to inflict pain, right?
They did what most people would do in a cage match if it was real. You try to escape and get out and win the match, as they attempted to do it so many times.
And this match had the same ideology, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want you to get up, but I don't need to go to these insane lengths, because what is that going to do? You know what I mean? Like, I can, it's essentially, I can knock you out with this chair and it can be done, right? Before we actually dive into the match, we do have to shout out ODB, because ODB is such a pioneer when it comes to TNA women's wrestling. And so, Driz, can you explain to the people that have not had the fortune of seeing ODB in person or on TV?
I have been blessed with seeing ODB in Louisville, Kentucky for so long, and the best way to explain it is she is like, when you're having matches like this, you just can't have any old person be a ref in it. You need somebody who's gonna stand toe to toe with with, just gonna get in the midst of everything. They might even take a chair shot or two. You need somebody who's tough enough to withstand these things, and that is what ODB is. She is toughness. She is hardcore, without calling her by her actual name, but she is that. She is that. She is that.
She used to crack me up, dog, because like she used to just pop up. Like, if authenticity was a thing back in the day, it was 100% her. Like, she would come out, chew the tobacco, you know what I mean? Like,
chewing tobacco. She had a flask. She was doing the not pretty things that they want, that WWE that they would want you to do. Like, oh, she's not looking pretty for you. She's not wearing a dress trying to seduce anybody. No, she's out there. She's sitting, arm on the chair, legs open, burping loud, like so not a lady. So not a lady.
No, there was nothing ladylike about her, but she was incredible. Like, she had the presence, you know what I mean? Like, she's actually somebody I wish was, like, I wish we could see ODB of that time in today's era.
She did not fit in that era. She was way too early. An original character in the States, because and that was something else that the Knockouts had. They had original characters. Like, yes, you had the beautiful people who were the pretty people, and they were an actual faction. You have Roxy Laveau, the Voodoo Queen, something else unheard of. You have the Scream Queen Daphne, who's been on TV for years, but her character still was original to everybody.
Yeah,
ODB, the hardcore cheer swinger, your monster in Awesome Kong. Like, they had all types of original characters that just worked.
Shoot, they still do.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Like, we're talking about,
and it's opened the door. It's opened the door and moved on to bringing all these other ones in there.
I mean, at that time, like I said, like, it was just very commonplace in TNA. Like, the women could main event. It would feel like it never felt, TNA never made it feel out of place. Today, they never make it feel out of place. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if TNA has been inconsistent with a lot of things, but their knockout division, they did not play.
The knockouts division is the one constant. Every other division has taken some type of dip somewhere. The biggest dip that TNA's knockouts ever had was putting someone like Tessa Blanchard in the main event scene, and that's just because they needed something for her to do. At that point, the knockouts did kind of dip a little bit, but it was still main event level. Like, everybody says that WWE has the best roster, and they very well might, but the knockouts use their roster better.
Keep in mind, I've been saying that TNA/Impact has had the best roster for a good minute now.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, just the volume of their matches just is always on a steady up, you know what I mean? And even just like when I'm looking at the card right now, this match is like The main event is Bully Ray and Sting. The match before that is Kurt Angle and AJ Styles. So before that match is this match. So we're not talking like they're not like that cushion between two big matches.
Yeah,
they are very much in the
they're in
line.
the flow. They're in that flow. They're in that little sweet spot where you're building up rising action.
Exactly. So obviously, this is where we get to the match. We break down the sweet science as much as we can. I take a little note here. The match starts out good intensity. You know what I mean? Obviously, being our last knockout standing match, you're gonna go straight into a fight. There's no collar elbow tie ups. There's no technicality. We throwing hands, right? We throwing hands.
Y'all don't like one another. Fight.
Like they're getting into it. And I think the beautiful thing about it was Gail Kim came into this like she's not anything. I don't think she just slaps her. So at that point, Taryn Terrell's like, "No, we're going. You getting these elbows? Let's go. You getting this?
Boom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gail gets changes. That's what I'm saying. You're like it's like we were talking about last week. The importance of how a match starts out. Obviously, Bryanson and Zack Sabre Jr. is a more technical fill out process. This is a fight. You know what I mean? I truly believe that these type of matches with stipulations are very old school in the sense like I like my stipulation matches to be filled with negativity and hate. Like pain is what I want to inflict on you, right?
And you bring it to the match.
Exactly.
That's what we need throughout the match.
I think, and I truly believe that is a lost art. I feel like we got to a point when it came to stipulation matches, especially when it was on television. It was done more so to pop the crowd and just fill time. It wasn't to end feuds in the proper way. Right?
They don't do it. They don't do that much anymore, man.
No, they made pay-per-views out of it. And I'm so happy that everybody is slowly getting away from that because WWE's not doing it anymore. Impact's not doing it anymore. It's all about the stories and how what makes sense on the road to here. So we got a free fight where we can go this way or this way. Like it all makes sense now. It's more logical now.
Yeah. The first major move, Gail Kim has her in the corner, hits her with the leaping forearm. But then boom, Tyron starts to hit her with a little bit of offense. She hit a beautiful snap suplex on Gail Kim. And like I said, I think because I've seen Taryn Terrell, like now I'm like, oh, I'm not surprised. But like back then, you probably were like, whoa.
Well, she can do a move because they weren't even doing those in the Diva matches for real. Except you got like somebody like Mickie James or anything, but seeing her do that, I'm like, oh, she actually got one over on her because Gail Kim is your wrestler. And I think another thing that I did notice about this match is Taryn didn't do a lot of wrestling moves. It was a lot of hockey fighting. There was a lot of loose edge presses and a lot of hair whips. But there was like that when she actually did a move, it looked really good. So they catered to her wheelhouse.
Like they essentially for maybe what she was lacking, like the stipulation of the match kind of it showed more of the positives than the negatives. Would you say that?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Took a page out of the Heyman book. Had the negatives, put the positives out there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Do what needs to be done.
And like I said, that's key. You know what I mean? Especially setting up the early advantage. Like I said, let me ask you, do you think this match is only 12 minutes? Do you think matches like this need to go long, or do you prefer them to be short and to the point?
If you're effective in what you're trying to do, you don't need to have a big 20-minute street fight. You can very well translate that in a matter of 8 to 9 minutes. I've seen it done so many times on the indies with the short ones. And if you really have a feud that needs to go that long, I've seen it done with that. But it's all about how you're how you're telling the story. If you can tell the story and make sure that you make everybody feel it, it doesn't need to be a whole hour or anything. A 12-minute match can be just as effective as a 30-minute match.
Nola, what about you?
I agree with the sentiments 100%. You really don't need it if you can get the story across in a shorter amount of time. I am down for a much shorter match. Like, I don't need no 45-minute work rate match if it doesn't call for it. Like, I could just, if you could do this in nice 12 to 15 minutes and still have some awesome wrestling, tell your story and move it along, then what? I don't need all of that. We good.
It's funny. All I heard was Biggie like, you can keep your 30-minute work break classic. Not me. I want a Goldberg match.
And hey, look, I'm the same way. Like, I firmly believe that in like a good fight in real life maybe lasts 3 minutes, if that. You know what I mean?
That's long for that. That's long.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You know how tired you're gonna be after 3 minutes?
Exhausted, you know what I mean? But in the essence of a pro wrestling style fight, 12 minutes is absolutely perfect because you factor in the ass whooping that's taking place in between, the counting that you got to do. It's it's perfect timing, right? But
honestly, that's one of my favorite things about NXT now. They get hell of amount of matches in a short amount of time, and they're all pretty like concise and good and get you in and out. Like, there's not really like 25-minute matches for real, unless it's like a pay-per-view or something.
Or it's your Johnny Gargano who doesn't know how to do anything under 12 minutes. Gargano does not know how to have a short match ever.
Don't get me started on that, man. Just
oh man, yo, there was a time you liked to.
I know I rock with Johnny. It's just like I said, like there would be times we would be watching, bro. I'd be drifting off and I'd be coming back. We still going.
Bro drunk at John Cena Super Serum. He can kick out of anything. In NXT, he's kicking out of anything.
That Adam Cole match, the first one?
Oh, everything. Could have got hit by a truck. Attitude.
They matches, yeah, that's a conversation for another day. Those matches were just long, man. But Gail Kim, she hits a variation of the octopus hold, you know what I mean? She gets right into it. She starts to work the leg, you know what I mean? Which is a very underrated aspect to any type of like knockout style match, because if you can't make it to your feet by the count of 10 because your legs are beat up, we doing something right. We added psychology at this point.
It's smart. It's smart. And I don't think we're young. We're not thinking about that. Like, oh, we just trying to hurt our legs. At this stage, and then I look back and like, oh, that was smart. Whoever produced this match in the bag, like just use that logic, because we're getting clever. We're just now getting clever in last man standing matches now. We're going to go ahead and wrap you around this pole one good time and give you this figure four. We're going to smack you with chairs and everything on your leg. Yeah. Makes sense. You can't stand up. It hurts.
Oh, when she started attacking the leg, I stood up and started clapping. I was like, psychology.
You know what she was setting up for? You know what time it was?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Gail Kim goes up to the top. She has the drop kick off the top, on the top rope.
Beautiful.
Oh no, that front missile drop kick, gorgeous. It was absolutely gorgeous. She brings the chair in, right? Obviously, crowd going crazy. Driz, at this point, like, are you like? Can you remember if you were starting to get like? Were you like already in the match, or was this like the point where you're like, oh shit, we in it now? Like, we about to get.
It's about to get. It's like we about to start pulling out tables and stuff now. It's about to get real scary, But as she wedged the chair in, I'm like, okay. You're just looking at it like, oh, we're about to start getting into the stuff now. So let's go.
Yeah, and even before that, Taryn, Gail Kim had the chair. Taryn was on the top rope. She hit that crossbody. You know what I mean? Which
yes,
I don't. Who got the like? Was that like an offensive move for anyone, or it's like what happened? Because I don't know, who.
I think that was supposed to be the play of, oh, she's just crazy. She doesn't care. She's just gonna leap on anything. So
I always look at spots like that as like it's like, you know, if you do like a if you got like a little fighting game back like in the Sega, you use a super move and it takes some of your health off.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Okay.
It's gonna do damage to your opponent, but damage is gonna take something off of you too.
Yeah.
But at what cost?
At this cost, it didn't do her anything. She could have skipped that. She could have found another way. But yeah, Gail Kim places the chair in between the turnbuckle. Still working on the leg. She then goes for one of my favorite moves, the figure four on the ring post.
Yes, that's a classic. Bret Hart. Oh man. Yep. That took me when that happened. It took me back to my childhood for a second. I'm like, oh man, I've come so far. Like, cause that was at that point in time when Bret Hart put you in the figure four leg like around a pole. You're out for a couple of weeks. You ain't on next week's Raw. You ain't coming back next week. You're out for a little bit.
Think about it, man. Like you wrapping like both your legs over a metal ring post. You know what I mean? Like I don't know about you boys, but I got old knees, so.
I'm not about that life. I can't do that.
I'm good.
I'm about to work for a month.
Oh man, I definitely was not going to be on Raw the next week. I'm like, oh yeah, nah. Go ahead, give me that PTO. Give me that
PTO. Yeah. So they go back in the ring. She's kind of got like, you know, what I mean, Taryn selling the leg. Gail Kim goes to charge at her, but Taryn moves. Gail Kim smashes right into the chair. In the turnbuckle. Crowd, like I said, is going crazy because
the window's open.
We're getting active.
My second favorite spot of the match.
Like that.
Yeah, so, she was flying. She went flying.
Yeah, she went in like it was a full like she Superman'd out of the ring. Like like whoa. And you know she's small anyway, so anything she does just kind of makes it a little bit more devastating, like, oh my God. And I think that also plays a part into it because women doing this, they're smaller frames. It's one thing you see a big man do it, you see the chair go flying. When you see a small woman do it and go flying out of the ring like that, you're like,
Taz basically said that.
Taz. Like they are little crazy. But let me see. Yeah, so she does the spot. Gail Kim, she stands up at 9, you know what I mean? ODB, she's playing a great middle woman, you know what I mean? She's not interfering, she's calling it right down the middle, but Gail Kim gets up. Taryn then returns the favor and hits the figure four post on Gail Kim. At this point, I'm getting hyped. I'm like, yo, keep going. Like, this is what I want to see.
Yo, what I love about it, it's almost like turnabout is fair play. Everything you did to me, I'm about to do to you. And it's almost like she learned as she was in the match, like, oh, we can do that. Okay, let's get to it. Like I've been trying to just fight this whole time. Let's go ahead and get in your bag. Let's do what you do, and let's try and make your knees hurt.
Shout out to the one dude that was in the front row, and he had the sign of Gail Kim and Taryn Terrell. He was like, the winner marries me.
Like, you know, they were both kind of late. You know, when at the end of the day, kind of later, all right, you want to get up or you want to like, who want to get up first?
I saw that, man. I was like, this is some loser ass shit right here.
Did you expect anything less?
Not from 2013.
No, not at that time. Not at that
time. Not at all.
And keep in mind, one of the dope things, like a little Easter egg, just thinking about the time frame, there was a guy in the front row and he had a Bullet Club shirt on. And if I'm not mistaken, this was in June. Bullet Club had just formed. So, like, in hindsight, you're like, God damn, this is such a long time ago.
My man was in the trenches early. He was ready.
Day one. He was rocking with Fergal. He was rocking with Fergal in Japan. He was over there with Tama. He was over there with the underboss.
Machine Gun, I was about to say Machine Gun Kelly, Machine Gun Carl.
Yep.
But yeah, no, it's just like I said, looking at like that's just one of those hindsight things. I'm like, goodness gracious, I wonder if he knew Bullet Club was going to be what it became,
as big as it came. Yeah, such a different time.
It was.
Yeah. So Taryn then goes for she goes for this. Yes, but then Kim moves and bop, right on that ramp. Yep. And one of the aspects I love is the emphasis that the ramp is metal. You know what I mean? Like the ramp is not soft. The ramp is not like it's not a cushion. It's painful. Like you hitting that metal, like you gonna feel it. We're getting to the end of the match at this point. You know, obviously, if you're watching it live, you didn't know at the time, but how are we perceiving the match going? Like, are we at a point where like it's exceeding expectations? Are we expecting more? Because, like I said, at this point, the only weapon being used was the chair and the ramp.
Like it exceeded expectations for me, and because of what I just felt like whenever you see that ramp, you instantly have flashbacks to Taz and Bam Bam Bigelow. So I'm like, oh, and you know the way this, and you're like, oh, this is Last Woman Standing. Oh, there's that ramp. Oh, that's how this is ending. And
foreshadowing.
Ain't nobody winning this match. I'm just like, yep, okay, this is almost over.
And like I said, like we're not talking about like soft bumps. We're talking about like these women are putting themselves through it without having to do the absolute most. Like it legit feels like we're watching like people, like two women that want to win. And like you said, this is not for a title. Like most of the time, these type of matches are for a title. This is literally about
respect. This is about I belong here. You're shunning me because you feel that I'm just a pretty face. Because I feel like those undertones are kind of just seen anyway. If you were paying attention anyway,
yeah.
So it's like, no, you don't belong here. Gail Kim's like, no, you don't belong here. Go on back to WWECW and go hold your clipboard or something like that.
Get out of here, whippersnapper.
That
is she young buck. Kim sweeps Taryn back on the ramp. She hits the back of her head. And then we get to the finale. Gail Kim, she goes for try to do a power driver. You know, 1 boom, 2 boom. Taryn blocks it, elbow, but then grabs her. Right. I'm thinking she's gonna do the shit on the ramp. She proceeds to RKO this girl off this fucking ramp.
You know, Randy Orton looking like, oh, I definitely got to do that. Orton's definitely like, yeah, I'm doing that next week.
And like I said, for like Nolo, first time seeing it at that point, like, are you like, what's your thoughts?
Oh, I popped. No, it's like, I said, oh, jumping off the ramp doing this. This is crazy.
Like logically, it makes sense. The camera, perfect spot, and it didn't go automatically running over there. They gave you a minute to like kind of process what you're like. They just jump off the stage together, like oh shit, like she's trying to kill her.
And I like how you didn't see like the front camera view until the replay of it. I thought that was really a good touch from how they produced it.
And then it also brings a question like, how the hell did they do that and not hit stairs? Because that's a small spot right there.
So it was very much like you were saying, like it's just visually it let the spot breathe. You know what I mean? Like the crowd, like if you've ever been at a wrestling show and you've been like at a peripheral of seeing something and then like a big spot happens, the key is you don't know exactly who took the brunt of the fall, right? Obviously, doing that type of spot off of a ramp, both of them are going to feel it, right? From the logic of it, Taryn going down, back of the neck, back. You know what I mean? Like pain. But then Gail Kim, she, smacked down on the face. Everything. So ODB starts to count, boom, crowd's going absolutely crazy. And then at the stop at 9, she gets up, Taryn Terrell, and she wins the last knockout standing. You know what I mean? And by the time, like, when I started the match, I was like, all right, I want to see where this goes. By the end of it, I'm completely enthralled with how this match was structured. You know what I mean? Because it did exactly what it needed to do. It made a star out of Taryn Terrell.
Yes. Like it gave her first off, it gave you a new face that's capable of having these big matches. It gave you somebody else you can rely on in big spots. It gave fans a true baby face to bet after, because it's hard being a baby face.
Yeah.
It's extremely hard being a baby face, and she endearingly she made that happen. And at that, she also proves herself as, I'm not just a pretty face. Divas can wrestle too. We get down and dirty with the best of them, and I just went toe to toe with one of the best wrestlers in the world. So it was it's the perfect combination of bridging that gap, and this is where I truly believe. I know Triple H watched that match and like, maybe we could do that here. Let's get this NXT going here.
I mean, look, Tripp's probably like,
I have some ideas.
We can talk. We can talk. Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's like it's the essence of it, right? You know what I mean? Like what we see today from women's wrestling is absolutely remarkable. You know what I mean? Like the women are very much like major players.
They are the show.
Without question. Like getting some of the biggest pops of their respective shows. Like I said, the arguably the best North American wrestler is a women's wrestler in Athena. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Obviously there's still some things that obviously could be fixed, but you know what I mean? That's just part of the game with both sides, men and women. But
everything's perfect.
Yeah. But to compare it to from 11 years ago and what this match represented, it's very much a blueprint match. And I think that's where the revisionist part comes into play. We talk about the women's revolution of WWE. Like I said, this was nothing new to TNA, right? Like they made stars, right? The reason why people know like Awesome Khan, Gail Kim's, like how she got busy. Like I said, the ODBs, where you pay the homage is from what TNA was doing. This match alone put Taryn Terrell in such a spotlight. She got better as years went on. Like from this match on, she got better. She became one of the best women's wrestlers in the world.
Yes, even to a point where they put the Knockouts title on her, and they ran with her as their main heel for a little bit.
Yeah.
So
that when she was in the house?
Yes, and that is a big deal because that means they believe in you that much, and that you're also bringing so many people in. Which, yes, it was the dark times, but they were a bright spot in those dark times.
I was when I was researching afterwards, like another match I saw of theirs was the 6 Sides of Steel match they had when she was the champion, and I was like, oh, this is some good shit. This is good shit. then they beat her ass after they locked the joint. Awesome Khan tried to get in, and she just had to watch her friend get her ass beat.
And it's a feud that they have gone back to so many times, which shows how pivotal it really was for them. Because even a couple of years ago at the NWO Empower show, they kind of all had a moment together. And I was like, I see what y'all did. And like, but it also makes you like, wow, this was a pivotal match in women's wrestling history. Like at that moment in time, you don't really see it, but as time goes on and a lot of people are going back and looking at them now, like, wow, they were like, WWE wasn't doing this, but they were doing it and doing it really well. Like, it's eye-opening.
It's very much like it's very much a match that should be talked about more. And I get why people may not have never seen it. You know what I mean? Like you said, we're talking about a time of TNA where they're going through the struggle. Like you said, like the TV deal is not the best that they have. You know what I mean? Like they're not filling out the space. Like I said, they're doing great business in Europe and everything like that. And they would have like a series of shows in 2014 at the Manhattan Center. But like the eyes weren't on TNA. If I'm not mistaken, the top story at this time was Ace and Eight, was that the Ace and Eight era?
It was Ace and Eight, yeah.
Okay, which Ace and Eight, for all his credit, got people kind of back into TNA because Sons of Anarchy was a big show at the time. But
great show.
Great show. But TNA, unfortunately, just didn't capitalize it on the way that they probably should have.
Right.
But it's the same thing with like the argument people make with Athena and like her standing as like one of the best in the world is like, well, she's on Ring of Honor. You don't necessarily have to see something all the time to recognize of what its impact is, right? It's very much like, I know in the next few years, we see it today, but in the next few years, you'll recognize where Athena's place is, and you'll go back and be like, yo, that run was incredible. You know what I mean? I think somebody even brought up a couple weeks ago the start where she turned heel. And like I said, that was on AEW Dark, and somebody had brought it up like, this is probably one of the most important moments in women's wrestling history. Right? Yep. This is another case of it. Like I said, without the TNA's knockout division, I truly believe you don't see the women's revolution. You know what I mean? Like you probably don't see the fire that comes from this. And it's even funnier, not funnier, but when you hear interviews of like women at the time, Melina, Eve Torres, you know what I mean? Even I think the Bellas, Natalia's talked about it. They all said the same thing. Like, we just wanted to wrestle. We just wanted to get better. We just wanted to be on par with the men. And keep in mind, right? It should be noted, those women were being trained by Finley. You know what I mean? Like, Finley wanted them in predominant spots.
Yep.
Right? And even when you get to the NXT era and you have the Paige and Emma match, we're still not on, like,
you're not still fully there. It's still pretty diva. It's still pretty diva. Now, granted, they're having longer matches and they're a little bit better quality than what they once had. It's still pretty diva.
Yeah. Nolo, where would you rank this match as far as its importance? Like, now that you've seen it, you can put it in context of where it was at the time to what we have today. Where would you rank this as an influential match?
I mean, you gotta easily put it like top 10 because look what came after it. Like without this, you wouldn't get to the way that like we were joking about saying Triple H was probably sitting back like, but not seriously. You probably was sitting back watching it like, oh, I wonder if I'd put a little more like emphasis on the women wrestlers. Like we could probably get like more eyes on us and more recognition, and the women wrestlers in our company can actually thrive and not be put down like they have been for so long. They really I really do thank you, Dryzzy, because I probably never would have watched this match because I wouldn't have known it existed. So thank you for letting me know, showing me this.
I would definitely be going more.
Hey man, I'm always down for some good graps.
I make the joke all the time. Like I'm a wrestling dealer. You need to need a match you ain't never seen before. Let me slash you just one real quick.
And
okay, I see.
Drizz, I want to ask you, and I want you to talk your shit on this because you are somebody in this space that all I see you do is big up the community. You big up Black wrestling. You big up women's wrestling. You know what I mean? Rest in peace and one love to Trey D from We Love Wrestling. Yeah, but you're somebody I very much respect, whose opinions I very much value, and I love when you do tweet and you are bigging up like the women that are coming up in this space. From your standpoint, being a fan, actually watching it live at the time, what would you say is the biggest takeaway you've gotten from the moment of this match to where we are now in terms of women's wrestling? Where, like, is it something that has been a beautiful thing to see? Has it been frustrating at times? But like, what is your overall thought on what this match meant and what it did for women's wrestling?
Like I said, if it opened the door for the women's revolution, it also opened the door for me to enjoy women's wrestling. Like I said before this, it was the bra and panties, evening gowns. I'm young at that point in time. I'm not thinking about any of that stuff until about high school. This match just shows like, man, and at that I think they also had more black women wrestlers at that time too. So I'm seeing more people that look like me out there. And that's one thing I've always wanted to see. After going from having a handful to seeing what we at, what 500 plus now, it means the world to me to see so much growth like that. I love seeing how they went from that match to now we have full pay per view of nothing but women, full pay per view of nothing but black women, full pay per view of just black wrestlers in general. Like it's just showing that there's if you believe, like just paying attention to it, it's out there. You just got to look a little bit harder. Like yes, WWE is there, it's accessible. You can go to a vending machine and pick up WWE, but if you just look a little bit harder, you find a little something else that you'll like. And I think the only reason that I really went looking at TNA is because I needed something different. And those women provided something different, and they do such a good job. How could you not want to support it? And it's like I became in fact, I think that's where my love for women's wrestling came from. Like when I'm sitting there really thinking about it, like yes, we had Jackie, we had Jazz and everything, but this match is one that like, okay, let me see what else I can find. And then, oh look, there goes Shimmer. Oh, there goes Shine. Like, oh, there goes Wow Wrestling. Like, and there goes the Indies. And like, that it's just it opens your eyes so much more to see how much more wrestling there is in the world.
Yeah.
And it's even with all the wrestling we have now, there's still so much more that we haven't seen. Because yeah, we
There's
got
something
like
for everybody.
it's something for everybody. If you don't like this, if you don't like blue, guess what? We got red. If you don't like red, guess what? We got green. You don't like green, guess what? We got yellow. Like there is something for everything. There's so much. Wrestling's on just about 7 days a week now. If you
Pretty much.
told 5-year-old me this, then I would have laughed in your face. We went from just Mondays and from Sundays and Mondays, Sundays once a week and Mondays to every day. Like
that's what
it's beautiful.
That's what's so funny. Like when I talk to other people, because they'll ask me about the podcast and stuff, and they'd be like, it was like, yo, wrestling still comes on like Mondays and Thursdays and like Sundays for pay-per-views, right? And I was like,
every day.
It's every day, bro. What you mean?
Like I'm to a
Monday,
point where
Tuesday,
I have
Wednesday, Thursday.
It's to a point where I have to find days not to watch wrestling because like I've gotten rid of cable. Well, I didn't get rid of cable all the way because I still need USA, but I've gotten rid of most of my streaming services just to have wrestling streaming services. I got IWTV, Trilla TV, the stuff when I'm trying to catch up on my recaps. Like it's on every day. I have to find days to just like decompress from it.
And that's the beautiful thing about it, though. You know what I mean? Like it's the accessibility. Like if you would have told me as a young man in the 90s, like growing up, like, oh, there will be a time where you'll have wrestling on every single day, I probably would be like, that's a lie because we don't get wrestling every single day. You know what I mean? But it's very much like I said, we're in an era where we're clamoring for a women's mid-card title. You know what I mean? Like we're actively calling for that. Like, you know what I mean? NXT is about to have the NXT Women's North American title. You know what I mean? We have two top, like AEW will likely have Mercedes Moné and Willow Nightingale main eventing Double or Nothing, right?
Absolutely amazing.
Gonna be great.
Amazing. You know what I mean?
And it better made event.
It
ain't
will.
Nothing else up there.
It has to.
What else would you put it there? Exactly.
There's nothing else to go there. It's the biggest Double or Nothing is AEW's WrestleMania. To have them main event at that company's WrestleMania, astronomical. It's gonna put them on the map.
It's funny when like I was thinking about it, I was like, the TBS championship is really about to main event a big big pay-per-view. That's you know what I mean? Like it's
and that's technically the mid-card title.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
But like I said, like, even something like that, like that's monumental. Both Gail Kim and Taryn Terrell are retired at the, you know what I mean? I believe Taryn Terrell retired back in 2022 shortly. I think she did a little work in NWA and then she retired. Gail Kim, she retired back in, what was it?
21 maybe?
20,
maybe
yeah.
21.
2019.
There we go.
Yeah. It's very much two women that left their mark on the game. You know what I mean? I encourage more people to go. I'm sure people have already watched Gail Kim. Go watch more of her matches, but without question, go watch Taryn Terrell because she without question has one of the best stories I've seen when it comes to somebody not accepting what she was given and then just running with it.
Like it's one of character development in wrestling is one of my favorite things. When you give like the Randy Ortons to Cody Rhodes, hers is just up there because even if you watch her story, she even proceeds to work with other ones who pull like faces that you like. Hey, I don't know. Like you'll see Jade, who's now Mia Yim. You'll see Marty Bell. Like there's so many other names in there that you're like, wow. And it's like you can just see it and just watching her growth. It's just been amazing. Like I love watching characters how they react to things that happen in their storylines, and it's just like how things may affect you on your day-to-day life to make you into the person that you are. It's the same thing that happened with these characters, and I love that.
So,
hey man, that's what got me. Oh no, I was just gonna say that's when because I was not familiar with the Dollhouse, and then
you were not hip to the game.
I was not hip to the game, but the moment I saw who was in the Dollhouse, I was like, "Oh, we about to watch all these matches. We about to go back."
Yo, you had texted me. You were like, "I wasn't familiar with her game, and now I'm watching the Dollhouse." I was like, "Oh, this nigga deep."
Oh yeah, he's in there. when you start watching the Dollhouse, like, oh, you was watching Global Force Wrestling at that point in time. Like, ooh, you was buying the gold. You was buying that gold that Bear was selling.
Hey man, I had to see what was up.
So of course, you already know this is the part of the show where we bring out the illustrious Nolo Green Leaf system. You know what I mean? Where we shoot off. We don't do stars. We do leaves on this podcast.
Leaves.
Drizz, Gail Kim, Taryn Terrell, Slammiversary, last knockout standing. How many leaves are you giving it?
What's the most I can give it?
5.
I'm giving it 4.5. It's not the greatest women's match that I've ever seen, but it is a match that means so much to me. It's near and dear in my heart. Maybe nostalgia makes me put it up that high, but it's definitely like whenever Wrestling Republic does their top 10 list every year, they look at me side-eye because I toss that one in my top 5 every single time.
I don't know why.
But it's absolutely 4.5 stars.
That chick is fire.
It is. But they also Wrestling Republic is based out of the UK, so they were more hip to the Joshi stuff before I was. So
they was in the graps, yeah.
They were deeper into than I was. So
I completely understand.
I would give it also 4.5 leaves. I do, as I was watching the match, it progressively grew. I think when the initial chair spot, when Gail Kim ran into the chair, I think I was like, this is 4 stars without question. As the remaining moments was, I was like, oh, this is 4.5. I gotta bump this up because, like you said, it's not the greatest women's match, but it did what it needed to do. It brought the crowd to a different level. They both showed an intensity, like they weren't just trying to fill time. Like they got active in the entire 12 minutes from start to finish, bell to bell. So yeah, 4.5. And of course, the pioneer of the Leaf system, Nolo Green. What are you giving it?
4.5, baby. Honestly, y'all both have said it. Both excellent ways to describe the match, but I would just also like to say that the finish of it, her hitting the cutter off the ramp.
Yes.
Like, didn't expect it. Like he said earlier, I thought she was just going to hit it on the ramp because they've already been saying it's a metal ramp. Each move hurts. Everything hurts when you hit it. And then Tara said, "Nah, hold my beer. I got you.
We about to die."
Yeah, let's go.
We about to die. But before we get out of here, Driz, man, is there anything you want to talk about as far as this match? Like, what does, like, you've already alluded to it, but what does this match mean to you, and why was this the match you chose?
I said, I am a super huge fan of women's wrestling, and after doing this show and actually just deep diving into it further, this is where my love for it came from. Like, seeing them actually get busy in the ring. They're not having pretty matches. They're not wrestling pretty. They was getting ugly with it. They was fighting. This was a fight. And then it also just shows me anything that men can do, the women can do, and they can even do it better. And it has translated even further now to when we see shows like Empower, when we see the women get majority of the shows on NXT and Raw, in the indies. Oh, in the indies, the women be cooking. I'd rather watch indie women wrestling than the ones on TV. Like, got just
that scramble match for the culture.
Oh my god!
Oh my, top tier. Hey, I find it. Before we get out here, right now, I just happen to just hop on Twitter, and what is trending right now is Willow Mercedes main event. So I find that quite poetic that is what's trending right now as we wrap this joint up. Driz, man, please tell everybody where they can find you, your socials, you know what I mean, when you're gonna be on the air. Like I said, you know, I don't even think I gotta tell you, you are forever welcome on this platform. You let me know, let any of us know anytime you want to come up here, bro. And I know we'll lock something in for you to come on the volume episodes in July, but please tell people where they can find you, man.
I gotta tell everybody all the time, if you don't go boom with the Black Guy Wrestling Podcast when they list their stuff, you ain't real.
Hey, appreciate it.
But you can find me on Twitter X, whatever we're calling this thing nowadays, at Great Wall Dryzzy. That's GR8 Wall DRYZZY. You'll find me on every Tuesday night after NXT at 10:15 with my boy Shad and Clark. We review everything NXT with Wrestling Off the Air. And also catch me on the paper most of the time, unless there's something astronomically crazy going on. I am also on the post shows of those pay-per-views, Wrestling Off the Air. That's the brand for all post shows. And I'm also the Twitter fingers behind Wrestling Republic's Twitter. So when you see something crazy out there, it's me. It's me. And normally after that, you'll see Savannah and Megan on my ass like, "Hey, bro, get off." Log off.
Hey, man, you be cooking up there, man. You be cooking up there. And of course, for us, you know, I mean, you can find me, Poetic Scotland, on X, Scotland_Underwood on Instagram.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Relia the Leaf. Follow the 2 pod pages on Twitter, Instagram at BGW Pod.
Yes, and of course, one time for our brothers Chaz and Mech. Like I said, I already know we have a busy month ahead of us. This Sunday, volume 164. We will have Meeks on with us.
Meeks!
You know what I mean?
I love her.
And yes, and then next week
she's really dope.
Yeah, no, that's going to be an incredible episode. And then next week on the watch list, we will have the legendary Heartbreak Julio from the Almanac Show. But,
really?
Yes. But I told you, man, we winners. We going with winners on this journey. You know what I mean? We going with winners on this. But Brother Driz, man, we appreciate you dearly. You know what I mean? Thank you so much. Like I said, this platform is equally yours. So anytime you want to pop back in, my man, we're here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
On through, brother.
It's my honor to be working with you guys. Like I said, I've been rocking with y'all since before I was podcasting. Like y'all was in the rotation back then.
Hey,
that means a lot.
I appreciate it. We really appreciate that right there, man. That's some heartful stuff.
Hey, that's just what shows what y'all doing out here. I love y'all. I'm proud of y'all. Happy for everything y'all doing. Please keep it up.
Hey man, like you said, iron sharpens iron, man. So without you, we get better too. So
Absolutely.
We appreciate you and everything that you do, man. Like I said, you are one of the few brothers on this space who I genuinely love and admire. You know what I mean? The way you big up everybody, the way you
one of the biggest supporters.
You are very much somebody whose flowers you need to get daily, because the flowers you get for everybody else is just astronomical. So I'm telling you, Nolo, I know I can speak for Nolo. You are 100% appreciated and loved in this space, brother. We dearly, dearly, dearly. There would be no Black wrestling community without you, my man. So we appreciate you for everything you do.
Thank you. That's crazy. And it's funny though, because I learned from Trey.
Yeah, love.
Like I learned from Trey. From Trey. That's all I.
Yeah. One time for the guy, man. One time,
Absolutely.
Trey. Rest in peace. You know what I mean. So we're out of here. You know what I mean. Go watch Dynamite. Go watch the B Show. Go watch. You know what I mean. The Elite 2000.
Gotta go watch Willow. Go on main event Double or Nothing.
Come on,
hey, man, is Willow on TV? Because if she's on TV, she's on TV.
Willow's on TV. I'm gonna be bapping.
And on that note, everybody, for BGW, for the man Drizz, one time we are out.